Five Nights at Freddy's is generic American 9-to-5 job simulator number 385. You work as a night guard who is unironically so desperate to make ends meet he is willing to be gutted alive by a giant teddy bear, like a true American. You work from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. monitoring seemingly empty hallways for dirt-poor wages. But plot twist, the robots that perform there have played Detroit, become human, and now want to kill someone out of pure rage. Every night you are greeted by a message from a previous security guard who left because he was a pussy-ass bitch and couldn't handle 3 tons of pure steel trying to shove him in a suit, killing him in the process. You quick learn the robots get quirky at night, I'm assuming, due to never getting bathed like a fucking Redditor, and due to stinking all the way to heaven's gates, they want revenge on your ass for the mere act of breathing. Because of this, you need to manage the final juice in a Duracell battery this entire place is run on while operating such outdated equipment, it would make horse and carriage look innovative. The only information you have at first is that this is a Chuck E. Cheese ripoff, with the main appeal being 3 disturbing robots and a 4th robot so incredibly ugly not even Satan would employ him as a demon. As a result, he's being stored behind a curtain, one of the most cost-effective protection measures in the cosmos. On top of this, there have been so many murders behind these walls that it would make both Jeffrey Dahmer and Jack the Ripper blush. And this place is still somehow in business. I'm assuming due to money laundering schemes, but hey, what do I know? You are greeted upon starting a new game with a newspaper article simply reading, "Family Pizzeria looking for security guard to work the night shift. 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Monitor cameras. Ensure safety of equipment and animatronic characters. Not responsible for injury dismemberment. $120 a week. To apply, call 1-555-FAZ-FAZBEAR. This article is circled with a red marker, meaning whoever we're playing as has taken the offer. Decided to get up off his fat, lazy ass and get a job, which is much better than you, I might add. The act of looking in a newspaper for a job may be because this game might not take place in modern day, but instead takes place in the recent past, possibly even before the internet. However, since the actual timeline for this shit is so complicated it makes Payday 2's plot look like child's play in comparison, we'll just say it takes place in the mid-80s to early 90s. A simple screen appears after a glitched animation. 12 a.m., first night. With your first day jitters intact, you are loaded into an office, a blaring fan mixed with a single light above you as a phone starts to ring. Off the bat, you already start to feel unnerved by something. Is it EDP 445's worst nightmare staring at you from your desk? Maybe it's the fact that you haven't seen your dick since you were 5 and suffer from morbid obesity because the whole game you are unable to even get up and walk around. This is mostly because this game is entirely 2D, and no, I'm not kidding. While the models and/or images in this game were probably taken on a 3D modeling software, the entire game is nothing more than 2D images linked together through clever button mapping, giving the illusion of a 3D environment. This works in the game's favor since it adds to the helplessness that you feel while playing a horror game, where while in Slender the 8 pages you could run from Slender Man, here you can't do anything. You're forced to sit in that chair until one of the robots comes and rips your face off. No running, no hiding, no fighting, just you, a light, cameras, and a door. A person appears to have recorded messages on the phone for you throughout your whole week, giving you advice on how to be productive on the job. The fan base dubbed this man the phone guy. Very creative. He's meant as a red herring, since most of the tips he gives on how to survive are stuff you could have either figured out on your own, or are things that don't work at all. The guy finally hangs up and leaves you on your own, giving you this eerie sense of dread like something isn't right. The things he talked about in that phone call were major red flags, plus what was said in the advert you saw in the newspaper. Dismemberment? This is a night shift. How could I get dismembered? I've always found the best horror to be when you leave the human brain to fill in the blanks. By nature, we'll always assume the worst. And when the guy over the phone barely gives you any information, and we're left to fill in the blanks ourselves, it helps us feel more terrified. The rest of the night you spend looking at the characters wandering around the place, since apparently they can't stay in place for too long. Most animatronics along these lines are in place and can't actually walk around like this. Now this leads to the assumption that they come to life, but I don't think that's true. I think they actually do have the technology to walk out and around. Look, people, I get the 80s weren't that technologically advanced, but since this is a video game and it's not too far out of the realm of plausibility to believe, then I'll believe that these robots can walk. Eventually, you're greeted with the ringing of a grandfather bell and the sounds of children cheering as you are shown another screen introducing Night 2. When you're loaded back in, you're greeted again by the same blaring fan, the same light above you, and the same phone ringing back in to give you another pre-recorded message. It appears that your character has decided to come back, probably writing last night off as paranoia. When the phone guy calls, he doesn't give much in terms of advice, other than finally introducing the fourth robot. When he hangs up, you still feel that dread you've been feeling for the past couple nights. It's starting to creep into your soul like a weed. As you flick through the cameras, you continue to get more and more anxious, like something could come at you at any moment. You keep hearing footsteps getting louder and louder outside of your office. This is where Five Nights at Freddy's excelled. The atmosphere it gives you, the player makes you feel uneasy. This is a restaurant intended for children. There shouldn't be anything to fear here. Yet the way that these animatronics are constantly trying to make entry into your office says otherwise, plus the fact that you need a large metal door with caution tape on it as opposed to a regular wooden door. Why have such intense safety measures for a place that shouldn't need them? The longer you keep playing, the more you question these things, by nature humans, like things that are understandable and predictable, yet nothing about this place makes any sense. Regardless, long story short, you're scared, terrified even. While all of this is setting in, you see it, a hallucination. What did it say? It's me? This place is making your character mentally unstable, his brain frying the longer he stays here. Usually in these situations, the human brain looks for something to cope with the stressful environment, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think since this place was already intended to be a coping mechanism and/or a happy, cheerful place, the human brain might be confused by the Inception-type shit it's trying to process. This place isn't supposed to be as stressful as it is. It's supposed to be a safe, kid-friendly environment, but the whole time you've been here, it's been nothing but torture. Regardless, your character finally makes it to the end of the night, end of the shift. Time to go home, relax, watch TV, and sleep for the day until tomorrow night. You came back. At this point, you might think your character has a death wish. Any person with a brain would quit that job without a second thought and move on, but either because it was hard to come across a job offering, you didn't want to ruin your career reputation, or there was pressure from your parents to keep the job. Especially since they think you're crazy for thinking the robots are going to kill you, you decided to come back and finish out the week. The guy over the phone left another message for Night 3. He mentions that people don't usually last this long, then quickly backpedals and says he didn't mean that they died. Well, that's a lie and a half. So if these things do kill previous employees, you have survived a lot longer than most of their other victims. This makes you wonder how many security guards have disappeared before you. What number will you be if they take your life? Apparently, he hangs up faster than usual because things, quote, start getting real tonight. These robots have failed for the past 2 nights to kill you and aren't playing a game anymore. They want you dead. The night progresses with a much faster pace. The characters are moving faster than usual. I could have sworn Bonnie went straight from the dining hall to my blind spot in 2 seconds. That's when you realize you forgot Pirate's Cove. You check it, he's gone. Curtains agape. You check frantically as to where he could have gone until you check the left hall cam just for him to rush you on your left side. You shut the door just in time, saving you both a heart attack and your life. This place won't let you breathe. The longer your character stays here, the more insane he's becoming. It's clear that by the end of this, whether or not he survives, he won't be the same person. You start to hallucinate. Posters on the walls start changing. Some of the animatronics are moving in funny ways. At one point, the rules poster changes to a poster detailing how 4 kids went missing, supposedly being murdered. This poster, are those kids' spirits still in this place? The animatronics were reported to smell atrocious and were leaking blood and mucus. This brings everything together. It all becomes clear. These robots are haunted by the spirits of those 4 children who died. Now they roam these halls trying to kill you out of vengeance for what happened to them. Maybe because you had made it so far and they knew they would kill you eventually. They would let you know through a hallucination what is happening. So then does this mean they can control your hallucinations? This is the breaking point. You have nothing to cling on to. There isn't any possible way of making heads or tails of any of this. If spirits are the cause of this, then there is no rule structure as to how any of this works. It is beyond your comprehension. Eventually, as you continue, you forgot about having to save power. Yeah, remember that Duracell battery joke earlier? Well, here it takes full effect when the entire place goes out. Like that the whole place goes pitch black. The doors open and you hear footsteps coming in your direction. The only thing letting you see is a small blue backup light shining above you. You are powerless to do anything. Out of the dark of the left door, Freddy, the bear animatronic, starts flashing from his eyes and mouth, playing a jingle known as the Toreador's March. The song was composed by a French composer named Georges Bizet, intended originally for a French play about a Spanish bullfighter, in French a toreador, and was sung by the bullfighter in the second act. It was about the various conditions within the bull ring, the cheering of the crowds, and the fame that comes with victory. Very fitting, since now it's all down to luck if you get to live or die. Then the only backup light giving you any view of literally anything goes out. In the black, you are left silent. What will happen? Then the bell rings and it's 6 a.m. One of the biggest sighs of relief comes through your mouth as a feeling of the release of tension floods your body. You get to live for another night. You have to be stupid, you're back. You came back after almost dying, seconds away from going missing and having your death covered up, so this company that clearly doesn't give two fucks about you looks better in the long run? Why was it guilt? Do you feel some kind of empathy for these kids' souls? Regardless you're here, there is no getting out now. Hunker down, 'cause you have a long night ahead of you. The phone guy left another message. Sadly, it looks as if this is the last one he recorded for you. Good reason to. He's dead. He talks about holding out in the back room until someone possibly comes looking for him, but realistically speaking, he's dead. There is no doubt. The same anthem that played for you last night starts blaring in the background of the call before it cuts off. They killed him. Now they'll kill you too. The pace gets even faster. For 3 nights you have been able to evade their wrath, but tonight they are getting desperate. You become hardened. The usual tricks they used to scare you don't work anymore. You no longer jump when you turn on the door light and see one of them standing there, and you are no longer fazed by the hallucinations they make you endure. The longer you play this game, the more you as the player can just smell this rotten place. The moldy pizza left to rot on the tiled floor, the thick dusty air clogging your nose, the unfiltered scent of odor this place had endured for however long it's been running. Dirty fabric. However, throughout all of this, Freddy has never actually gotten off stage. Does he send the others to do his bidding? Suddenly you hear a deep laugh, and in the stage camera he's gone. You can't seem to find where he went, so in a state of panic you continue keeping track of the other characters. Eventually it's very faint, but you see his eyes glowing in the dining hall camera. The pace gets faster and faster. You balance keeping them out and checking on where they are relative to you versus how much power you have left. You have now mastered this. You understand how it works. You remind yourself not to let your guard down until you hear another laugh. Before you have time to check where it went, it turns 6 a.m. One more night to go. Get some rest, champ. You deserve it. This is it last night, and you get your paycheck. I'm not going to bore you with more storytelling, so I'll just be blunt and say that I played this on the one life rule. Basically, I only get one life when I die, then I'm done, and I've lost. I did actually end up losing after the power went out at 4 a.m. Regardless, you can play for a 6th and 7th night too, although those ones aren't mandatory and the 5 nights is the golden standard. I played it all in one long session, and I can say confidently that this game still holds up really well. The way the game is put together, the 2D environment never seems to throw me a loop, and I continue being sold this illusion that I actually am a security guard working the night shift in a children's restaurant. Still, 5 Nights at Freddy's was a game that inspired the hearts of many. I still found it incredibly terrifying and still think that the person behind this game, Scott Cawthon, was Albert Einstein reincarnate, because this first game in the series really sets up a great horrifying atmosphere while telling a subtle story through environment clues and certain context spoken to you through the game. I would heavily recommend picking it up on Steam. It's like $5 and I had a blast playing it again. 5 Nights at Freddy's 3 is the 3rd installment of the underpaid workers who don't get paid enough to do this shit game. A long time ago, there was supposedly a large restaurant that was a local urban legend due to kids supposedly being killed there by the owner. And due to those children's deaths, they then haunted the robots that performed there. A bunch of security guards on night shift go missing. More children die. It finally goes out of business and boom, We're in the 21st century, where a bunch of people decided to capitalize on a bunch of kids' deaths to make a quick buck. Supposedly on March 2nd, 2023, a horror attraction is due to open. That leads us to where you are, a security guard working night shift in this brand spanking new horror attraction dedicated to the local urban legend from long ago, if you consider the 80s to be that long ago. Actually, now that I think about it, the 80s was pretty long ago. Some might say the late 1900s. Apparently, not only did they not learn any lessons from the first place by having a night watch, they also decided to give him just as outdated equipment as the other dude had, if not more outdated. I swear to fucking God, if these things went out, you could get some old senile grandpa out of the retirement village to fix them for you. Then maybe he would also fix the faulty as fuck lighting in here as well, since this place seems to also be running on a Duracell battery, only now it seems to have another A added to it. Not only is this place a complete unnecessary mess, it also seems to be a massive lawsuit waiting to happen, since the ventilations along with the wiring can easily cause this place to burn to the ground. Worst day ever for the 13 or so odd people who get burned alive in this quote-unquote horror attraction. But OSHA's dream come true when it comes to money and tax write-offs. This place is a horror attraction, all right, but maybe not for the reasons they want it to be. On top of being incredibly insensitive and tone-deaf, this place also contains a horrifying robot that seems to follow the same hygiene routine as a Discord moderator because he stinks so bad whatever house he lives in has to be quarantined 3 blocks out due to the stench, leaving only men in hazmat suits and gas masks to come in and clean up after the abomination as it talks to its kitten over voice chat. The game opens with a newspaper article like the previous games. This time, though, it's an advertisement as opposed to a job offering. Coming soon, Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. Local amusement park is getting ready to scare your socks off with a new attraction based on the unsolved mysteries of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Featuring actual relics from the decades-old pizzeria, this new attraction is guaranteed to bring back your childhood in the worst way possible. So outside of not only being somewhere boomers would go to, because nobody in their right minds would advertise a place opening up in the newspaper, but this place is supposedly made as a walk down memory lane for people who must have gone to the place when it first opened. So in other words, this is like taking a Vietnam veteran back to where he got his leg shot off, because the only people who remember this place are PTSD patients. After getting a phone call from the supposed manager of this hellhole, he tells you that he just needs you to monitor the place, making sure things don't get stolen, yada yada. Okay, fair enough, whatever. There isn't anything here tonight. You just get to soak in the environment while getting a hold of the mechanics. To your right you have the camera system. This is nothing new if you played the other 2 games. Only difference here being that you can swap between the cameras in the hallways and ones in the vents. Why would I need cameras in the ventilation system? I mean, sure, I guess to make sure there aren't any rats chewing on wires. Now to your left there's another panel, only this one is new. It's some kind of rebooting panel, dedicated to rebooting anything that might fail you. Okay, I guess that works fine enough. Getting a good look at this place definitely isn't that scary or intimidating. It's meant for people walking through to get this feeling as if they were there while the events from the first game were happening. You see all of these old arcade cabinets and get a lot of this 80s Chuck E. Cheese vibe, a lot of these props being from the old place. Now I would assume after it closed all of the stuff that was in it was either stored in a warehouse somewhere or sold off in some auctions. However, given that after it shut down there was some kind of bad omen surrounding the place, nobody would want anything from it. Of course, maybe the odd collector would come around someday and buy things as souvenirs, since this place would have been worth a lot due to the stories and history of what happened there, and that is where I'm assuming all of this shit came from. If not from a collector, then probably some kind of facility that would house old forgotten shit like this. I could only imagine how bad this place stinks, since all of this stuff probably hasn't been washed in years. Seeing all of the animatronics from the first place being hollowed out and put onto clothing stands for display gives me this sense of death, or being out of one's prime. What once were children's entertainment now stand as a display for a long-lost era, as if this was their retirement. Foxy having his head being hung like a chandelier, Chica having her head laid on the floor for people's feet to pass, Bonnie's head and body being held up by a stand for passers-by, and Freddy himself being put right outside your office. I almost feel like it's some kind of callback to when you would almost die from the power running out in the first game, which would be somehow poetic in a way I can't understand. After the clock turns over to 6 a.m., your shift is over, you can go home and sleep until tomorrow night. You make it back to your shitty desk job as the man calls back. Unlike in the first game, this person appears to be directly calling you as opposed to leaving you messages from nights prior. The guy talks about how they opened up a back room in the old pizzeria and found a lot of authentic stuff along with something else. They found one, a real one. Then, like the asshole he is, he hangs up and leaves you stranded with whatever they unleashed inside of this place. But whatever they did put in here with you probably wasn't anything too dangerous, was it? He says you might see it wandering around somewhere, very comforting. So as a naive young adult, probably just trying to pay off his student loans, you look in the camera system for whatever he might be talking about. Eventually you see it, just barely visible in the static. There is something in here with you, and whatever that thing is, it looks horrifying. Foolishly, you don't let your fear get the better of you and continue to do whatever it was that you were doing, probably homework. I swear the professor is going to pay. I mean, seriously. Who had the bright idea to put letters in math? You're too distracted fuming over A going into B, you didn't stop to realize that thing was wandering through the halls of this place, getting closer and closer to you, and right as you were on the verge of discovering that to put A into B, you have to cancel out the 600 below it, you hear something. A loud banging sound, the vents. You rush to check the cameras and switch it to those odd vent cams. There he is. The damn thing is crawling through the ventilation system like a dirty old rat. You close it off before he can make it to your office. You hear more loud banging as the room you're in begins to flash red with a loud alarm. Then you look to your right and flip up the other panel and realize the vents are out. After rebooting it, you look back over to where your cameras are, and there he is, standing in front of you, looking at you through the glass. Don't know how much time has passed. All I know is that it feels like forever, but no one ever tells you that forever feels like home, sitting all alone inside your head. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, him. There is a reason people are petitioning for this character to be in Dead by Daylight. Springtrap has to be one of the most genius slasher characters ever conceived. I mean, the general design of Springtrap is merely an after effect of the character's backstory. William Afton, the man who murdered all of the children at the original place, gets haunted by the children he killed and became so traumatized he got into one of the old, wet, and faulty springlock suits from the original establishment to get away from the torment. But since those old suits must have been made with bear traps and knives held together by Scotch tape, the slightest wrong breath can cause the thing to go haywire and crush whoever is wearing the suit. Because of this, William ends up dying after all of his internal organs get stabbed, skewered, and crushed, leaving nothing more than a lifeless husk inside of an already rotting and decaying children's entertainment suit. As the murderer slowly fades away and gets what he deserved, Satan must have thought death was too good for him, so he was left on Earth to haunt the robot he was crushed inside of, basically cursed to roam the world through his own rotting creation. The design, as I said, is an after effect of this origin, the suit of Springtrap being this old, disgusting greenish yellow, the fabric having multiple holes due to all of the mold and decay, showing old wiring and human organs wrapped around a metal endoskeleton. Buttons slowly falling off one by one, reminding you this suit was once made to entertain children, but now it has become pure nightmare fuel. One of the things ears are missing. It doesn't have actual feet anymore, leaving metal stubs where they used to be, and then the eyes. The eyes stare piercing daggers into your soul. I can't tell if they're the robot's eyes or William's. Springtrap isn't your traditional form of a cyborg. Yes, he does fit the typical criteria for one by being half human and half machine, but the thing is, the part of him that is human is dead and decaying. All he has become is a lumbering piece of machinery with a decaying corpse inside of it, haunted by the corpse entombed within. While the robot isn't controlled by his dead body, it is controlled by his spirit. I'd like to imagine he can feel both the sensations of the robot he's controlling along with the pain of his dead corpse rotting inside. All the maggots and flies eating him, beetles crawling out of his body and up his suit. I prefer this form of a personal hell for William to endure over whatever the fuck Ultimate Custom Night was. Way more suiting. You could imagine how bad he smells. Probably worse than a Reddit moderator after a 7 billion karma grinding session. Wherever he is, you could probably smell him at least 5 miles away, like a dump truck emptied several huge loads of garbage on top of wherever a city stores all of the shit and piss it collects from the sewer system. The way he moves, probably being half robotic and half meth head, I would imagine he would be both slow and lumbering along while also being quick and sporadic, like there is a human somewhere in there trying desperately to escape its confined state. The voice box it uses would be malfunctioning, having a mix of words that the robot was originally supposed to say on stage, along with the desperate communications of the spirit inside. Springtrap is probably one of the best characters in gaming, but he is severely underutilized, never actually getting a chance to shine on his own two metal stubs. The bits and pieces we see of him aren't enough, and I just wish he would appear in more stuff than just Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I would be down for seeing his character in Dead by Daylight. Well, whatever happened last night must have been nothing. After all, the thing never actually did anything, did it? If it did, you probably didn't see it. You should only focus on that algebra instead. The old rumors and legends of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria are just that. Local urban legend and folklore. There's absolutely nothing to be worried about. You were merely panicking for no reason at all. The thing in here with you hasn't moved yet. Maybe last night wasn't anything important. After all, this thing was originally programmed to be curious, wasn't it? I would assume so. It needs to be appealing to children. Another hour goes by. Eventually you hear it again, the same sound from last night. He's in the vents again, isn't he? You check the cameras and realize he's in the vent that leads right into your office. You quickly shut it before anything could happen. Then everything starts flashing red. Back over at the control panel, it appears your sound system went out. After rebooting it, you look back over at your camera. Camera goes out. Well, that's a bummer. You close the camera and get jumped by the stupidest thing in this game, phantom animatronics. The reason I find them stupid is because not only do they serve no other purpose to gameplay other than fucking up a good flow you got going, but they don't even make any sense canon-wise. What the fuck are they? The dead children's spirits? The spirits of the dead children are still back at the old pizzeria, so the only thing these things could be are hallucinations. However, I still have a hard time believing that. This place may be stuffy due to poor venting and might be hotter than hell because everything here is a fire hazard, but unless the main character has schizophrenia, I highly doubt he's constantly seeing these things. Not only that, but when they jump scare you, they can cause things to fail, so either it's a constant coincidence or these aren't just hallucinations. You can't change my mind on them. They're stupid and I hate them. They do nothing other than slow down the gameplay for the sake of doing so and don't make any sense within the canon of the story. Fuck them. You check back on the control panel to realize that little shit caused both your cams and vents to go offline. You do a system reboot before eventually realizing that in the chaos you completely forgot about whatever that thing is they put here. After a full reboot, you flip down the panel just to see him staring around the corner. You stare back. This is it. Life and death. Kill or be killed. You slowly roll back. You lock your eyes with whatever that thing is. Don't look away, otherwise you might regret it. You quickly turn to access the cameras, but it's too late. The last thing you see is that monster taking one last step towards you as it lets out a bellowing shriek. I found the gameplay lacking. It has a cool premise and a neat atmosphere that really makes me feel like I'm in a horror attraction dedicated to something that happened long ago, possibly before I was even conceived, but yet none of it was utilized very well. Springtrap doesn't get used as much as he should, instead being a gateway into those dumb phantom animatronics. On top of this, surviving is something I found to be incredibly difficult, and not for good reasons. Don't get me wrong, I like a good challenge, but this wasn't so much a challenge as it was confusing. I think what you're supposed to do is lure him away with the sounds of a child giggling, because he must be some kind of pedophile, so that way you can prevent him from getting to your office, but most of the time he ignores it and keeps coming. It doesn't make it any better that you can't even see him most of the time because he's hidden in the dark, hiding behind something usually. When I do actually see him, it's too late, and he's peeking out from behind my door. I never get the chance to understand if I did something wrong or if it's all just down to random chance. Regardless, if you do manage to make it to night 5 regularly, then you'll get this screen. Good God, I don't want to go too far into the endings within this game, but I will at least give you a brief summary regarding them since they are a crucial part to why this game was such a hot topic back in 2015. So, let's start with the bad ending. The bad ending happens when you complete the game like you would any other game. Supposedly, this means that after finishing the game, you didn't do anything necessary towards freeing the children's souls from the animatronics they possessed. As a result, they will remain in purgatory forever. However, if you do a long sequence of random shit, then you can get the good ending, which is where you freed the souls of the children trapped inside the robots they were caged in and can now enter the afterlife. This sequence of events actually unravels more backstory as to what exactly happened at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where supposedly some kid must have been having his birthday party when out of nowhere he gets lured away by William wearing the suit he's currently entombed in. After being killed, he gets stuffed into the golden Fredbear suit, which then begins a serial killer rampage behind the walls of this place. After all the kids were murdered, the events on the hidden poster from the first game happened, causing a police investigation to be launched, forcing William to stop killing kids in fear of being caught and being released on lack of evidence. Over the years, the place begins deteriorating, causing it to get shut down due to it becoming a health hazard, and along with the place going, so does William's sanity. He goes back to the place and destroys the animatronics in an attempt to get the kids to leave him alone, but they only corner him into the suit he used to kill them, causing it to snap and kill him. Now, he is left to rot in the place he built, the suit he made, and become forgotten along with everything around him. And after all of that, you, as the security guard, a nameless nobody, has to help these children's spirits give that first victim the birthday he never got in an arcade known as the happiest day. After all was said and done, you get a beautiful screen where all of the animatronics' heads are laid out on the ground in front of you as a majestic song is played on the piano in the background. They are now able to rest. You leave as they give a silent but deafening thank you. Well, there you guys go. It took me a while to write the script for this video, but at least it got finished. Regarding the series going forward, I'm done with it. Like I said, I prefer to keep my head canon that only the first and third game are canon. Everything else is shit made to please people who wanted more for the sake of more. Next up, hopefully, is the King Kong 2005 review. If not, it'll probably be another game. Like, subscribe, have a fantastic day, and remember, I regret nothing.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow.